Welcome to our last Christmassy. Well, I guess not last because we will still have to talk about all the kings and the wise men and all that stuff. But welcome to our Christmassy Christmas Sunday school for youth. Today we're looking at Luke chapter 2, sort of all of it. And there's a lot there, so it'll be a good chunk for you to read, but there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in there. So it starts with the actual birth. They get on the road. They go up to the town of Nazareth, and then Jesus is born. They didn't have anywhere to stay. And so then the angels show up to the shepherds, and they're like, hey, this amazing thing has happened. And the angels leave, and the shepherds are like, we got to check it out. And they go to look, and it's everything as they said. And then the part of Luke 2 that we often skip over. So then Jesus, it says, Jesus is circumcised. That's exciting, right? And given his name. And then he is taken to the temple. And so when he goes to the temple, they see two prophets, Simeon and Anna, who basically live in the temple, and said, I was waiting until I would see the Son of God essentially presented, and I have done that now, and sort of giving an early verification of who Jesus is, and so they're very excited about that, and then they have to go back to Nazareth, and he gets bigger, and then an interesting story that it ends with is then Jesus as a boy, they go to the Jerusalem for the Passover, and they lose him. They're like heading home and they lose him. They can't find him, and they go back to Jerusalem to find him, and he's like, didn't you know I was going to be in the temple? And they're just kind of like, what? And then he just continues to be really smart. So they find him in the temple, and everyone's like, he's so smart. I couldn't believe he was so smart. And they're like, we've been so worried about you. And he's like, whatever. And I love this because I make a joke often that Jesus must have gotten grounded for both getting lost and then mouthing off to his mom, because then the next time we see him, he's like 30. So he's grounded for at least like 18 to 20 years. And so there's a lot in Luke 2 that we sort of gloss over that's important, and what it means to show that Jesus was a pious and raised as a pious Jewish person. And that's really important for who he is and a lot of the boxes that he checks for why he's the Messiah and what that all means. But the part for us to focus in on is sort of the the proclamation to the shepherds, but also the birth of Jesus. You know, the common thing is that he was born in a stable out by itself because there wasn't any room in the Motel 6, right? But that's not actually the case. You know, Jesus was born in a house. The difference was that he was born, when you would go visit your family, you would have a special room for your guests, and then there was a big open area everybody lived in, including the animals in the wintertime. And this is the area of the house that they were in. And so they got there, and they just didn't have anywhere to stay that was sort of the privileged, respected space for guests. So you're pregnant, you don't know any of these people, you're related, but you don't know them. And then you go into labor, and so you're basically giving birth in front of all these people that you don't know. And I can't imagine anything more invasive and embarrassing, than that, to have to be going through labor and having all these strangers around you. And so, Jesus just shows up. The Son of God shows up in the midst of sort of a bunch of strangers. And then more strangers come in the shepherds. But they come with, the angels came to us, and we have good news. And so it's sort of all these different things of unknowns and uncertainties and unexpected arrivals and craziness of life. And in the midst of all of it, Jesus shows up. And that's what Christmas is really all about. But in the midst of the craziness that is our life, everything we have going on, 2020, and how crazy it has been, in the midst of all of that, God finds a way to touch base with us, to show up in our lives, and to continue to help us to grow. And so my hope is that as you approach Christmas this week, and that as you look into the new year when we get there, that you will embrace that idea, that God will show up in your life in unexpected ways in the midst of the worst and the most chaotic times, but it will be blessed and amazing because of that. because God will be there, and God is there already with us. So take some time, read Luke 2. If you have any questions about all of the stuff in there, Jesus going to the temple, Jesus getting lost, Jesus getting grounded potentially, let me know. Text me, email me, Facebook message the church, any of that stuff. Happy to respond. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great week and a Merry Christmas.